So this is a fresh install of topspin 4.5, and after you get the fresh install, it'll create this link right here, and it has some example data. And the one we're going to use is this menthol anthranilate. And so you see the first one in here is ZG30. That's like the proton experiment. And so this is the data here. Let me double click it. And we can save as. I'm just going to use the first choice here. And I'm just going to call it copy. And now we have a copy of it down here. The reason why I copied it is, so far I've not figured out a way, when you make changes to your data set, it's like permanent. And so if you make some big, strange, weird thing, I haven't quite figured out how to dig myself out of the hole. So I like to make a copy of it first. And you can see when we opened it, it did the Fourier transform, and it did like an integration. And in this graphics window, you have all these little tabs up here. So this is spectrum, and you can see your FID. You can make a plot, and you can put in your structure, and it'll appear here. So let's just put in some junk. And I'm just going to go. I think that's all I want to do there. And then you got to save pretty much everything in the software. You have to save before it like accepts it. So now there's a benzene ring in there, but just to show you how it's done. And so you have your spectrum, your process parameters. This is all the different settings that you can do for processing data, and acquisition parameters here are what it did to collect the data. So like TD here is the size of the FID. In the older software, this would be NP, the number of points. You can see NS is the number of scans. The old software is NT. The first thing we're going to go, I'm just going to go through the standard processing here. So I'm going to get rid of these integration marks. So I'm just going to go over to Analyze, Integrate, and Manual Integrate. And there's a couple of ways you can get rid of it. You can just select one here, and you see it kind of turns green, and you can just hit X, or you can just select them all with this little button right here and hit X. Either one will work. And then you always have to, so anytime you have a bar here, the last one is save without exit. So, so return, do not save, but it'll ask you if you want to save it, so you just say yes. If I said no, it would undo my changes. Let's go back here into integrate again, manual integrate. And this one's automatically saved without asking you. So generally the first thing that you do once you open up a spectrum is you do the phasing. So go back here to process, and then I'm going to go adjust phase manually. And what they say to do is, see this red arrow here? That's your what they call the pivot point. They say put it on the biggest peak. I'm just going to stick it somewhere in the middle, say right here, and let's try that first. And then you go up here to 0 and 1, and you right click and drag on the 0 and 1. And then it's okay, I did that one. Then you right click and drag on the 1. And you kind of do it until you get the best you can. And over here, there's this baseline button. I'm going to click it. That was this one right here. And let's do the 0 again. Let me see which one looks best. So I didn't like the pivot there. Let's put it on the TMS. Set pivot there. And let's try the 0. And the 1 again. Yeah, definitely that on that side it doesn't look good at all. And let's put the pivot over here and go to 0. I don't think we need an adjust. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. And again, you have to do, this one is the save, and this is the don't save, but it'll ask you to save. Okay, and so there's your phase adjustment. Then usually we do a baseline adjustment if you want to do it. This one's not, this baseline looks okay to me. It's got a little bit, so what you can do is click on baseline, and I tried this automatic alternate algorithm. Let me see how that looks. It did a little better. That's all I'd probably ever do. Then calibrate axis is how you set your reference point. It's already pretty close to 0. So here I'm just going to drag across the peak. And then what you do is you go to this manual calibrate. You click where you want to have it to be 0. Click. And you just set it to 0. Okay. Okay, what's the next thing we want to try? So we did phasing, and then we did referencing. So I'm going to zoom out on this button. And now we're going to do the integration. So we go over to analyze, and then we can go to, actually let's do peak picking. It's the next one on the thing. And you go manual peak picking, and again it gives you this sort of or this gives you this new set of toolbars. And if you don't have anything selected, so it had this selected by default, then I can drag across it and kind of zoom in. So let me drag across this stuff and zoom in. Then how this works is you grab this first guy, and you just kind of make a box around what you wanted to peak pick, and then it labels it. And then we could zoom out again and turn that off, and let's say we wanted to do this peak here. And then we make a box around the top 2 peaks, and there we go. And save and exit and full scale. So now we have a few peak picks. You could do all of them if you wanted to. So now let's go to integrate, and let's just integrate over this region here. And I'm going to go manual integrate. So we have, it doesn't choose anything, so we could do this one, define a new region with the cursors, define a new region with cursors, and do a baseline correction. I kind of like this one. So I click on it and just drag from here to here. So basically I always celebrate from a flat part to a flat part. Flat part to a flat part. Okay, and so now we have our integrals kind of defined. And if you wanted to change, let's say this first one to be 1, you just right click on it and say calibrate current interval, and we'll just say 1, and that'll re-update everybody else. And then we save and exit. So let's look at a few other things over here. We have title, which we can change. Peaks, so that's the peak table. So that's the peaks that we selected. And then intervals, there's the intervals that we have. And you can put more sample information, draw structure, plot, and close. And I think that's all we really want to do. Let's look at a few of these other options here. So this is all just scaling. So times by 2, divide by 2, your vertical scale. This one here is you can hold your mouse over it and kind of drag up and down to adjust the vertical scale. And this one's kind of a pan and zoom type thing. This one will move your baseline. This one will move back and forth. And this one will just kind of crash the baseline as low as it will go. Let's see, what else do we have here? This is a distance measurement one, so I'm going to like zoom in here, boink, zoink, and make the peak bigger. and then grab this distance measure. So you just kind of like click on the first peak, drag it out, and now you can see that the peak separation is 1.54 hertz. Okay, and so let's zoom out again. And then we have a lot of stuff over here. First one that might be useful is this question mark one, because it gives you all the manuals. And so if you wanted to say, okay, I wanted to see some manual or something like that, so you have access to the manuals. Command list. And so the commands do something, they do some tasks. So let's click on A. The first one is about. Okay. So I'm going to close the window and just type about in the command line. And it gives you this little dialog box. And over here you have like a command history or your structure. And this one will actually give you information about a command. So if I just say like about, so it's very similar to the other one. And this is the statuses. Okay, so that's that guy. So command list, parameters list. So we could type in S and SI. So that's the real size that's for your transform. It's sort of like FN and VNMRJ. And so let's see. Here we can turn on and off. So it doesn't get rid of it, it just turns it on. So let's say you didn't want your integration stuff, or you wanted integral marks, or you didn't want your peaks. It's still there in memory, it's just you can toggle it on and off. And you can have the structure toggled on and off. So there's a lot of little toggles there. This one just opens up your email browser. This one you can copy it to the clipboard and then paste it in Word or PowerPoint or Excel. This one you can export it as like a PDF, and then this one prints it out. So that's the very basics of processing your data. You could do a window function if you want to here. So you could change, say if you wanted to do like some line broadening, which is an exponential, and you want to make it say 0.5 or something like that. And then you got to reprocess the spectrum. Let's say, do you want to overwrite? You say, yeah. But a lot of times it'll mess up your integration, so you got to renormalize it again. So, oops. So you can see here when I right-clicked on it, it didn't give me the recalibrate. So you have to go back into the integrals manual, then right-click on it, and then you get the calibrate, and then 1. And it'll re-update everything. Same thing with like, again, we need to save it before we exit. If you wanted to, say, go to acquisition pars, no, process pars. So SI, if you want to do like zero filling and add zeros, you could change this to 128,000. Whoops, not that many. And then you'd have to reprocess it again, I think. Let me see, override. Yep, okay, so that actually added some zero filling, but it messed up your intervals too. I don't know why it does that. There's probably another thing to investigate into. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you, let's say if we were doing, say, adjust the phase manually, and we're in this little separate dialog, and now if I go and try to do something else, it'll give you this like error. Anytime you have one of these little sub-menus pop up, if you try to do something else besides that sub-menu, it will give you error. Just hit close and hit save and exit, then you can do whatever you were planning on doing. So I think that's all I just really want to show for today.